The Bhagavatam describes Balaram wasn't there. That's another story. Don't do that. There were many inauspicious omens in the earth, in the sky, in the bodies of different entities. And we read some comments from Sridhar Swami and Sanatana Goswami about that. Sanatana Goswami in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, he says that all the trees and plants, they dried up out of agony, seeing Krishna's predicament. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says that the reason why the demigods created these inauspicious omens was because they wanted to protect Krishna's sweet mood of Braj. So they wanted to act like, yes, there is a danger. There's no danger with Krishna. Krishna creates the universes with a single glance. What is this little tiny insignificant worm called Kaliya? So they produced some omens to facilitate Krishna's pastimes. Kavi Karnapur said that seeing the Brijbasis enduring such misfortune, the hairs of the demigods loosened, and their clothes became disheveled, and they felt like their hearts were pierced with flaming arrows. Jackals called out very harshly at the sun. Smoke and dust rose. The sun appeared very dull and lackluster. The high winds howled in all the directions. Violent earthquakes shook the earth. Jiva Goswami says that the boys, seeing him stunned and not functioning, the Devas produced these natural calamities because they thought nobody's going to tell the residents of Vrindavan. Because the boys, they're stunned. They can't go anywhere. So we have to tell Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda and others. Sanatana Goswami in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, he says that when Nanda and Yashoda started seeing all these terrible omens, they were about to die from anxiety. Where is our Gopal? What's happened? What's going on? To relieve their suffering, Krishna, who understands what's going on, and although it looks like he's caught in the coils of Kaliya, he's thinking about his mother. Krishna was thinking, oh, they're going to be in so much anxiety. So Sanatana Goswami says that Krishna sent something like an email message telepathically to some old Brijbasi. And Sanatana Goswami in his commentary says that Krishna picked an old Brijbasi because he thought if one of the children go with this message, it may not work. But an old man, everyone will believe him. So he gave that inspiration, and the old man went running there to Braj. The Brijbasis had already become frantic and left the village of Vrindavan looking for Krishna. And they were outside the village when that old man met them. And when they heard from that old man that Krishna's in the coils of Kaliya, they all became struck by a thunderbolt. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, commentating on this particular aspect of the pastime, he says that when the Brijbasis saw the inauspicious omens, they feared Krishna had died. They said that the Brijbasis were behaving like an affectionate cow does toward her calf, and full of fear and anxiety, they all rushed out of Gopur. Gunaraj Khan also describes this pastime in his book, Sri Krishna Vijay. Nice book. And in that book, he says something very terrible. He says that the cowherd boys, they went running back to Mother Yashoda and Mohini, and they said, "Oh, Mother Yashoda, Mother Mohini, listen, listen." And they started telling what had happened. That this morning, we went to the bank of the Jamuna with our calves, and we were very thirsty. We drank from the water, but it was poisonous. And we drank and we died. But your beautiful Gopal, he brought us back to life. But after that, Mother, your Gopal did something very bad. He climbed into a tree. He tightened his cloth around his waist, and suddenly he jumped into the Jamuna. And Mother, the last thing that we saw was Kali biting Krishna on the chest. And the whole Jamuna was full of blood. Mother, we're afraid Krishna is dead. This is what Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj heard from those boys. Jiva Goswami and Gopal Champu says that when these messages came to the home of Nanda and Yashoda, Balaram, he understands Krishna's powers. He was happy. But then when he saw the anguish of the people of Braj, Balaram thought, oh, this is a difficult situation. They're ready to die out of anxiety for Krishna. And if I oppose them, if I tell them everything is okay, they won't listen to me. And also I'm suffering because of their pain. Their suffering can't be erased. Balaram's the original counselor. And just like a good counselor knows, you have to acknowledge someone's pain. So Balaram thought like that. I have to acknowledge their pain and their suffering. It's too intense. I can't just try to say, no, don't worry about it. It's a wrong story. It's not true. It won't work. I have to somehow acknowledge it somehow. So Balaram thought, the best thing would be is if I make some joke and then their anxiety be loosened. And so thinking like that, Balaram started laughing. And when the Brajbasis saw Balaram laugh, they felt some relief in their hearts. Balaram is the original guru. And he knows how to comfort the devotees. Vishwanath says that Prahasya Balaram was laughing because he thought to himself, what is this? Krishna never cares to play with me in my form as Seshanag, but now he's playing with this little mundane snake, Kaliya. When the Brajbasis saw the brilliance of Balaram's smile, they no longer desired to give up their lives. Sanatana Goswami says that a little different thing. He says that he was sitting there in the house when he saw the Brajbasis begin running around like dead bodies, like corpses. Balaram started calling out, Mitya, Mitya, it's not true, it's not true. And then Sanatana Goswami says something I'd like all of you to mark. We're going to come back to it later on. We have a lot of questions. This pastime is full of questions. Balaram told Rohini, you stay here and you watch over the house. And meanwhile, by the time Balaram had told that to Rohini, everyone else had already left. And they went running to the Jamuna. So we're going to raise the question, why did he tell Rohini to stay here? Why not Yashoda? Or why not someone else? Some other less senior person, perhaps, in the household. Why Rohini? There's a special reason. So because Balaram had to stay back to convince Rohini to stay there, he was the last one of the last to arrive at Kaliyadaha. Actually, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that all the residents of Vrindavan went running there to Kaliyadaha. And the last ones to arrive were the ones who were in the most anxiety, the gopis. And why did they come last? Because they were going blind as they were running from their tears. They were becoming mad. And sometimes they were falling on the ground, sometimes they were becoming stunned, and they couldn't move. And so the gopis had arrived there last. The Brajbasis and everyone, they were following Krishna's footprints. Marked there in the soil of Braj. All the residents of Vrindavan, they worship Krishna's footprints. No one will step on them, no one will disturb those footprints. Kavi Karnapur describes that Nanda Maharaj, Mother Yashoda, the elderly gopis, and the young children of Braj, they arrived there at the Jamuna. And from a distance, they saw something so very terrible. They saw Krishna wrapped up in the coils of this terrible snake. And Krishna wasn't moving. When they arrived there, they couldn't stop looking at Krishna. And the boys were there. Without looking at the boys, the Brijvasis, they asked, what happened? Did Krishna forcibly drag Kali into the water? Or did Krishna jump from the bank? Was this his idea or someone else's idea? And no one said anything. And then the Brijvasis, they looked down at the boys and they realized that the boys were laying here on the ground unconscious. And the boys couldn't answer their questions. At that time, Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda, the residents of Vrindavan, entered into a state of shock and panic. The Brijvasis' hearts burned like a person afflicted by poison. They saw Krishna in the middle of that poisonous lake and their hearts were burning like poison. The women who were there, they fell on the ground like creepers. The men, they fell on the ground just like trees which are cut down. Suddenly Nanda Maharaj started crying out, my son, what have you done? And Nanda Maharaj started to run into the Jamuna. And then Mother Yashoda also began to follow him. Kavi Karnapur says that the gopis, when they arrived there, their piteous voices practically cracked the ether. All you could hear in Braj was the crying of the gopis. And their tears made the bank of the Jamuna all muddy. Then finally, those gopis took shelter in the embrace of the Sakhi, named personified unconsciousness. And they fell down there on the bank of the Jamuna. And then again they would revive consciousness. And they started speaking about the pastimes of Krishna. When Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda started running into the Jamuna, all the other residents of Vrindavan started to follow them. And at that time, Balaram, he held them back. And our acharyas say that some of them he held back with his hands. And some of them he held back with his words. Don't do it. Don't jump in. And some of them he held back just with his eyes. By looking at them. And so this is one of Balaram's contributions for this pastime. Mark it. We'll come back to this. Then when Balaram saw that everyone was laying there unconscious as if dead, Balaram became overwhelmed with sorrow. And in a voice choked with emotion, Balaram called out to Krishna, Etina Vaikunta Nibasi Parshada Navanaraste na Yadava Api Goloka Loka Bhavareka Jivana Nashyanta Shakya Bhagavan Aidvam. Hey Krishna! These aren't your devotees in Vaikunta. These aren't the monkeys in Ayodhya Leela who came with you in the forest. These are not the members of the Yadava dynasty. These are your dear devotees of Goloka, and they have no life other than you. Hey Krishna, they're dying. And there's nothing I can do to save them. Pranay viyuktana bhavanti yavat chavadinodam karuna dvajaitam krishnanyata goshta janaika bando gantasi shokam midula swabhavaha. He called out, hey, midula swabhava Krishna, hey, gentle-natured Krishna, give up this game before your devotees die. Otherwise, dear Krishna, the only friend of the cowherds, your gentle heart is going to break. So, it was at that time, the Bhagavatam describes, that when Krishna understood the situation of the residents of Vrindavan, then Krishna told Kaliya, he said, so you showed me your strength, now I'll show you a little of my strength. I'm just a little boy. And Krishna began to expand himself. And Kaliya couldn't bear to hold on to Krishna anymore.